Today we're talking about how to generate more leads from your website. So if you're really playing the game of business online, then you're definitely not just using your social profile as your calling card to the world. You at least have a website. But the hard reality is most websites out there for businesses, especially small businesses, are pretty much like the equivalent of a glossy brochure. You're paying a really well-paid salesperson to stand out on the corner and hand out these brochures to your people, and, well, honestly, hoping that they find something that's interesting to them and they turn around and they come back and they purchase from you. Well, that's not going to work very well. So why are we designing our websites to do just that? To overwhelm our people with pages and pages and pages and pages of text, with images that are irrelevant, that without the answers to your customer's question, without a direct and clear path for them to actually find the solution that you offer them. There might not even be a discussion about the problems that you solve with your product. You might be overwhelming them by throwing too much at them, or you might have absolutely nothing for them to do other than to look at your shiny, glossy brochure. Enough with that. Stop wasting your time on it. Stop wasting your money on it. Today, we're talking about what you should be doing with your website. First, we're going to talk about a lead generation strategy. How do we actually get more people into our world? How do we get more potential customers? How do we start building that relationship? That's what we're going to talk about first. Then we're going to talk about the power perspective that we far too often forget. And we'll talk about using your website to have a simple path to conversion. Ultimately, we want to make more dollar bills. So if this interests you, stay tuned for more. I want you to reimagine your website. Instead, I want you to take a giant eraser, erase the entire idea of your website, because we're going to start from scratch. We're going to start from the strategy to begin with. We're going to ask ourselves the big question: why? Why do we actually have this page? What is actually supposed to be happening when our customers arrive there? Most people will think about their website or their home page to be where they can have all their bio and everything about them. It's the gathering place for every piece of information. It's pretty much your own page on Wikipedia, right? But that, my friends, very easily leads to overwhelm. We want to avoid that entirely, because a mind that has a very simple destination in front of it with limited choices is not going to be confused. It's going to move forward. On the other hand, when you overwhelm your audience with a lot of stuff, especially stuff that is energy draining, like reading can be energy draining. It takes time and attention that we are starved for at this time. We don't really have much of. That confused mind is much more likely to turn away from your website. So what was the point of writing those beautiful bios if no one's actually going to read them? You can get them to read them. You just have to design the experience in a different way. You have to think about the strategy from a much higher perspective. So that's what we're going to start with right now. I want you to think about what happens when you meet your ideal customer. What is it that needs to happen? Do you want them to apply and see if they are a perfect fit for your program? Do you want them to sign up for an email list so they can stay in contact with you? Do you want them to check out one of your social media profiles, or maybe your live show, maybe your podcast, or whatever stage you're building? Whatever that action is that you want to take, that's where we want to start building. So if you think about lead generation, here's a really big picture one that you can use. You can start by creating a first landing page that's going to share a little bit about you, but mostly about the solution that you can help get for your people. So say, for example, you help people with their nutrition. You help with meal planning and meal planning and preparation. So you can have a big program that they sign up for, that every month they pay their membership fees and stay in your program. So how do you get them into that program? How do you make sure that they are the ideal client? Well, maybe you give them an assessment that they can do at home and they can check out to figure out that yes, they are in fact overwhelmed, and yes, they in fact need someone to help them with their nutrition, and yes, they are ready to go. You want to make sure that that assessment helps them understand that they actually have a pain point, and you are positioned perfectly to then solve that problem for them. So what this looks like in terms of lead generation in your website, we're going to break it down into a series of pages, a process that our customers are going to go through. So the first page they're going to land on is actually going to point at that pain point. It's going to be that assessment. We're going to offer them that assessment absolutely free. We're just going to say, I know that this is a pain point that you're experiencing, and I want to help you understand it more. Take this assessment. In exchange, they're going to give you their email address. You're going to send them that assessment. And if you position that workbook or whatever the free training is appropriately, then the right customers will start purchasing your products because you're going to put your offer in front of them who have already pre-qualified as interested in your products. See how this works? We're not confusing them by asking them to read through an entire university reading course before they can understand what you actually do. Instead, we're breaking it down step by step by step, and we're including them in the process by giving them something like an assessment, something that they can use to look at their own experience in life, look at what's happening around them, and understand that there are solutions and there are programs and products out there that can help them achieve those results. And that's where you come in, right? So instead of overwhelming them with all this stuff, we're going to walk them through a process. So we're going to start by offering them something for free in exchange for their email. Then we know that that group of people are interested in our topic. If they open our email, we can get super complex now. If they open our email, we can send them to a different list because we know they're much more interested. If they actually open the email and do the material, say you have a training there, we have a tracking pixel on the page, we know that that customer has opened and moved forward in the program. Maybe it's complex enough that we know they've gotten to a certain point in the training. Whatever it is, we now know how deeply interested in this problem solution combination that customer is interested in. But I know that is a lot of information to start with. So I want you to first just think about a way that you can provide value for your people. Create something like a downloadable PDF or a free video training or another piece of exclusive content that they can actually get results from. Then you're going to position your offer in front of those people on a separate page, and bam, that is how you break away from the overwhelm of a traditional website and start using the right kinds of strategies. Stop building websites from back in the year 2000 and join us in this beautiful new century. We love hanging out with all of our visibility hackers, so make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Join us here on the channel. I'd love to see you along for the ride. Okay, fine, we'll get a little bit deeper into this. So let's talk about how the user actually experiences your site. We want to think about that journey our customer is going through. Say, for example, your customer is going camping. You're a traditional brick and mortar store. You have a great salesperson positioned near the front entrance who's going to casually walk over to the customer, ask them how they're doing, and get to know what it is that they have walked into the store for. Are they just glancing, or do they actually have an intent? And this salesperson is so great that the customer actually tells them just straight up, hey, I am here and I am getting ready for camping, but yeah, I need everything. We're gonna take the whole family out. Let's go. I need a tent. So the salesperson walks them over to the tent area and is like, absolutely, these are all of our different tents. They walk them through the different options, and then the customer picks up the tent that works best. And instead of just walking away or walking straight to the cash register, the salesperson then goes, think about this. Check out the front of this tent. This is a great idea. You're gonna sit outside of the front of that tent, but do you have chairs outside to enjoy this beautiful kind of vestibule that this tent gives you? And so now the customer needs to pick up chairs. It's not a pressure ad and upsell. Instead, it's a logical next step. So then we're sitting in the camping chairs and we're figuring out what is the best option for our camping experience. We get the adult chairs, we got the chairs for the kids. We are all ready for camping. But then our salesperson pops back in and goes, and outside of that campfire, you're going to love sitting in these chairs watching that campfire, but do you have things to roast things over the fire? Like, you don't want to get to your campsite and then be hungry and kids want s'mores or hot dogs over the fire and you don't have the right sticks for that. So of course the salesperson walks them over to the next section of the store where they pick up the next items. And on their way out, they make sure they pick up their marshmallows and they pick up all of the little tiny add-ons that are not pressure sales. They're not last-minute impulse items. They are logical next steps so that your customer gets the best experience possible, both inside your store, whether that's a physical brick-and-mortar space, or inside of the pages and process in which that customer interacts with your business online. Thinking about your customer's journey and the experience they have through that sales experience, through an application experience, through an indoctrination experience, whatever it is that you are trying to achieve, whatever type of relationship step you're achieving with that customer, we're going to do it differently. We're going to think about it differently. And we have to make sure that we're not just looking at a series of websites, a series of pages that you think link together just because they have the same headline font and page colors, when in reality, there's so much more to that brand continuity. Think about your voice in those pages as well. Think about what you would say as you walk your customer through the different steps of your offer, through the different steps of this experience that they're having with you. When you position yourself from the perspective of your customer, that relationship is going to deepen, that trust factor is going to deepen, and then your customer knows that you have positioned yourself as not only the greatest solution, but it's really the only solution to their specific problems. Pretty friggin' cool. And, you know, of course, I might be completely off base, so if I am, or if you agree with me, I don't know, let me know down in the comments. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. Do you think that traditional websites are the way that we should be going? More home pages, cooler graphics, that's what bigger bandwidth and access to the internet allows us to do. Do we go in that direction, or do we blow that up completely and start looking at these experiences in a different light? Let me know down below. Honest truth is that most people's websites are not making them money. They think about conversion in a completely different way, or unfortunately, a lot of them are designing because they want a website that looks pretty, and they think that visual authority builds the influence that they're looking for, when in reality, they're really lacking. They're not going to get conversions. So let's talk about that. Conversions first. What is it? Let's make sure we're all on the same page. Conversion means moving someone from one place to another. Most of the time, it's a place of indecision to having made a decision, meaning your customer or your potential customer is going from humming and hawing, reading over every word and every piece of punctuation in your sales letter, all the way over to the other side of that fence where they've made their decision, they've put in their commitment, they have purchased your product, they are now in it and committed. That is a conversion. That's the kind of conversion that most people glamorize and most people look for, right? The sale. But there's a lot of steps that have to happen in order for that conversion to actually materialize. So what are the other steps ahead? Well, they're all mini conversions. They're all conversions in their own right. So conversion can also be going from being a casual follower of you on social media to actually hitting that subscribe button and following them on their lovely YouTube channel. That is a conversion. So maybe you have a particular setup of pages that is designed. Remember, we work in a relationship. We're working on that customer's journey and that experience. So maybe that experience we're working towards is a conversion into being a subscriber on your YouTube channel. or listening to the latest episode of your podcast, or it's joining your contest that you're having, or joining into your mailing list, or signing into your membership community. Whatever it is, it can be a small conversion or it can be a large conversion. But if we want to think back to psychology for a second, the psychology of sales and marketing, we have to remember that when a mind is primed to say yes or to say no, on the other hand, whichever mindset you are primed, you are framed in that experience, you are set up to say either yes or no. This is what happens. You go into a room, or you start a conversation and you ask a bunch of micro commitments, is what we call them. So a bunch of questions that the answer is either yes or no, and you know ahead of time what the answer is. Most of the time it's going to be yes. That's what we want. The ideal condition is you set people up to say yes. So you say things like, "It's a great day out there, isn't it?" "Yeah." "Do you like what I'm hearing? Do you understand what I'm saying? Does this make sense to everyone? Is it cool if I continue?" These kinds of small, unconsequential or inconsequential questions that you're asking people is setting them all up to say yes, yes, yes. So when you get to the big question at the end, when you get to that moment of conversion, they're already primed to say yes. If on the other hand, you haven't really thought of this, or you've been ill-equipped and structuring and asking the wrong questions, and people are answering no, no, no all the time, then when it comes to you presenting your offer or your call to action, they're primed to say no. So they're probably going to say no. Don't cry about it. It is what it is. Psychology is psychology. So making sure that you can use all of the tools to your advantage, we want to make sure that we are priming people to say yes. I have something I want you guys to say yes to very simply, and that is joining us in the visibility hacking community on our Facebook group. So all you have to do is head over to visibilityhacking.com, and on the top corner of the page, you can click the button that says Become an Official Visibility Hacker. That'll pop you over into our group. You have to answer a couple little questions because we only want real people who are interested in growing the visibility of their small businesses. They want more authority, they want more influence, and ultimately they want more income online for their business, for their families, for their pursuit and their journey in life. So, my friends, join us over there. In the meantime, check out one of these videos. I will see you again in our next one, and until then, remember, I love you, be excellent to each other, just go live.